We live in a world that teaches us to throw things away when they break. We're told that broken means worthless, damage done. But let me remind you of something powerful. Even broken crayons still color. That's not just a cute quote. It's a truth that can change your life if you really let it sink in. Because brokenness is not uselessness. Being broken doesn't mean God has walked away. It doesn't mean you've lost your value. It means there's more of the story still being written. Some of the most vibrant colors come from the shortest crayons, the ones that have been worn down, pressed hard, snapped in two, but they still show up with color. They still leave a mark. That's you. You've been through some things. Maybe life hit you hard. Maybe you made some choices you regret. Maybe people walked away. Maybe you're carrying things that still hurt when no one's looking. But you're still here. You're still breathing, and if you're still breathing, it means purpose is still alive inside you. See, we confuse perfection with potential. We think if we don't have it all together, we're disqualified. But God doesn't use perfect people. He uses willing people, the ones who are real enough to say, yeah, I've been broken, but I'm still showing up. The ones who stop hiding their scars and start using their stories. It's not about what you've lost. It's about what you still have. And what you have is enough when it's placed in the hands of the one who made you. There's a reason brokenness shows up in every powerful story. You look at anyone who's done something meaningful in this life, and I promise you, there's a page in their story that looks like yours. Pain, failure, loss, doubt, and still, they chose to believe there was more. That's the decision, right there. That's what separates the people who stay stuck and the people who rise. Not whether or not they were broken, but whether or not they believed they were still usable. And listen, I'm not saying ignore the pain. I'm not telling you to pretend it didn't happen. I'm telling you that pain is part of your design, not your definition. You're not the mistake. You're not the failure. You're not the addiction, the divorce, the betrayal, the diagnosis. You're the comeback waiting to happen. And the moment you stop seeing your brokenness as a disqualification, and start seeing it as the beginning of your breakthrough, that's when everything starts to shift. You can color with what's left. It may not look like it used to. It may feel uncomfortable, but what's left is more than enough. Sometimes it's when the crayon breaks that the color gets bolder. The mark becomes stronger. The image becomes richer, because broken things in the right hands become masterpieces. And you, my friend, are in the hands of a master who never wastes anything. Not time, not pain, not tears, and definitely not your story. So if you've been feeling like your best days are behind you, I'm here to tell you they're not. You're still in the game. You're still part of the plan. Brokenness is not your finish line. It's your turning point. You were never called to be perfect. You were called to be powerful. And sometimes power shows up through the cracks. Even broken crayons still color. So pick yours up and start again. You ever feel like the pain you've been through somehow disqualifies you from your purpose? Like because you've messed up, or because someone else messed you up, you don't get to live fully anymore. We all carry those quiet doubts. The kind we don't talk about, but that whisper in the back of our mind. You're too far gone. You missed your moment. You can't come back from this. But let me tell you something, and I need you to really hear this. Your purpose doesn't expire just because you've been through pain. Pain doesn't cancel purpose. If anything, pain clarifies it. See, we think purpose only shows up when life is pretty, when the path is smooth, when we've got everything figured out. But that's not how it works. Purpose is forged in fire. It's born in moments where everything feels like it's falling apart, and somehow, you still show up. You still care. You still try. That's purpose growing roots deep inside you, even when you don't see it yet. Pain makes you pay attention. It slows you down. It strips away all the noise and distractions and forces you to ask the real questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What matters? And in that raw, honest space, that's where purpose becomes real. Not something someone else told you. Not something you copied from a motivational post, but something personal. Something that comes from the inside out. Most people think pain is a detour from the path. What if it's actually part of it? What if the setback was the setup? What if the thing you thought broke you was actually shaping you for something bigger than you could have imagined? Because that's what God does. He takes what hurt you, and He turns it into what heals others. That brokenness you're hiding, that's not shameful, that's powerful, that's relatable. That's what someone else needs to hear so they know they're not alone. Sometimes we sit in our pain like it's a prison, but it's not. It's preparation. When you stop asking why me and start asking what now, that's the shift. That's when you start to see how none of it was wasted. Every tear, every disappointment, every silent battle. It was all working together to pull something out of you that couldn't come any other way. And listen, I'm not glorifying pain. Pain hurts. It breaks you open. But sometimes it's the breaking that lets the light in, and that light, that's where purpose lives. You wouldn't be the person you are right now without what you've been through. You wouldn't care the way you care, love the way you love, see people the way you see them. That compassion, that grit, that wisdom. It didn't come easy, but it's part of your calling now. So don't let pain convince you you're off track. Don't let your worst moment define you. God hasn't taken His hand off your life. In fact, He's closer now than ever. Purpose doesn't avoid the mess. It walks right through it and comes out stronger. Purpose shows up in the middle of the storm and says, I'm still here, I still matter, I'm not done yet. You're not broken beyond use. You're seasoned, you've got something deep inside you that people need. And when you stop hiding the pain and start owning the purpose, that's when the real power kicks in. That's when the colors get brighter, even if the crayon's broken. The truth is, it's not about how perfect you are. It's about whose hands you're in. We look at ourselves sometimes and think, I'm not qualified. I've got too much baggage. I'm too broken. I've failed too many times. But the master still creates with broken tools. That's what people miss. They think they have to be whole, flawless, and polished to be used. But some of the most powerful works are made with pieces that don't look like much until they're placed in the right hands. See, you could take the same broken crayon and put it in the hands of a child, and they might scribble something messy. But put that same crayon in the hands of an artist, and they'll create something that makes people stop and feel something. The crayon didn't change. What changed was the hand holding it. That's why you can't judge your worth based on what you've been through or what condition you're in, because your value doesn't come from what you look like on the outside. It comes from who's writing your story. We live in a world that teaches us to be self-sufficient, to fix ourselves, to be strong all the time, but real strength is in surrender. It's saying, I might not have it all together, but I'm willing. I might be cracked, but I'm open. I might not know the whole picture, but I trust the one who does. That kind of surrender is what unlocks purpose. It's what transforms pain into power. God doesn't wait for you to be perfect to start using you. He meets you right in the middle of your mess. That addiction, that insecurity, that failure you're ashamed of. It doesn't scare Him. He already saw it, and He still called you, still chose you, still put something inside you that can't be erased by what you've done or what's been done to you. That's why when you look back on your life, even the darkest chapters, you'll see that you were never alone. He was writing through it all, every page, every moment, even the ones you tried to tear out. Sometimes we spend so much time trying to fix the brokenness ourselves, to hide it from others, to pretend it's not there. But what if the brokenness isn't the problem? It's the invitation. What if it's the very thing God wants to use to show His strength through you? Because when people see someone who's been through hell and still shows up with peace, with purpose, with power, that's when they know something greater is at work. That's when your life becomes a testimony not of your perfection, but of His presence. You don't need to be fixed before you're used. You just need to be willing. A surrendered life is more powerful than a polished one. That's why some people who seem like they have it all together aren't making impact, because they're too busy pretending. But the ones who say, "Here I am, flaws and all," those are the ones who shake the world because they're not trying to impress, they're trying to serve, they're not trying to shine, they're trying to reflect. So if you've been feeling like you're too far gone, like your mistakes disqualified you, like your cracks are too visible, let that go. You were never meant to do it alone. You were never expected to be perfect. You just have to place your life in the hands of the one who sees the masterpiece in the mess. The master isn't looking for pristine tools. He's looking for available hearts. And just like a broken crayon in the hands of an artist still creates beauty, your life, no matter how messy it feels, still has the power to leave something lasting, something that colors the world in ways only you can. You don't have to be whole to make an impact. You don't have to be flawless to matter. A broken crayon still leaves a mark, and so do you. That's the lie we've bought into, that unless we're back together, we can't be effective, we can't help others, we can't lead, we can't live fully. But purpose doesn't wait for your life to be picture perfect. Your ability to make a difference has never depended on being unbroken. It's always depended on being willing. We think we have to hide our cracks, smooth out every edge, erase every mistake before we can show up and serve. But the truth is, people don't connect with perfection. They connect with real. They connect with stories, with struggle, with scars. And if you've been through something and you're still standing, then you've got something powerful to offer the world. Because people aren't looking for someone who's never fallen. They're looking for someone who fell and got back up. Someone who can say, "Me too, I've been there and I'm still here." You're still capable of leaving a mark. Maybe you don't feel like it right now. Maybe life has worn you down. Maybe you feel small, like your voice doesn't carry, like your story doesn't matter. But I promise you, it does. Your presence matters. Your perspective matters. Your pain, your lessons, your victories, they matter. You are still leaving an imprint on every room you walk into, every life you speak into, every soul you love on. See, the world will try to measure you by what you've lost. How much money, how much time, how much confidence, how much ground. But heaven sees you through what you still carry, the heart, the faith, the courage to show up when it's hard. And showing up is half the battle. When you decide, "I may be bruised, but I'm still here," you're already winning. That quiet resilience you carry, that's strength. That's purpose. That's you saying, "I still believe my life can mean something." Sometimes we underestimate the weight of our witness. Just by being real, just by walking through pain with grace, you're coloring someone else's world with hope. And most of the time, you won't even see the full impact you're making. Someone might be watching how you handle pressure, how you keep going, how you speak light even while walking through dark. And they'll draw strength from it. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Because you kept showing up with whatever you had left, and maybe right now you're running on empty. Maybe all you have is a whisper, a flicker of belief left in you. That's enough. You don't need a full voice to speak truth. You don't need a spotlight to shine. Just keep coloring, keep giving, keep loving, keep speaking life. It doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. It just has to be real, because even a faint mark, drawn with a broken piece, can change the entire picture. Don't let shame keep you silent. Don't let fear keep you from showing up. You were never meant to sit on the sidelines of your own story. You've got too much in you. You've come too far to fade out now. This world doesn't need another perfect image. It needs your real colors, raw, vibrant, and maybe even a little messy. Because broken crayons still color, and you're still leaving a legacy with every step, every word, every act of love. You matter, just as you are. You're still making an impact. And no matter what's happened, your life still counts. Keep showing up. Keep leaving your mark. You're not finished yet. What if the very thing that broke you is the same thing that's going to build someone else? What if the pain you've been trying to forget is the blueprint for somebody else's breakthrough? We go through things, and we think it's just for us to survive. But survival isn't the end goal. Impact is. Legacy is, the truth is, your story is not just about you. It never was, and what you've overcome might be the exact thing someone else needs to hear to believe they can overcome too. See, pain isn't meant to be hoarded. It's meant to be shared, not in a way that reopens the wounds, but in a way that turns them into wisdom. That's how healing spreads. That's how hope grows. When you open your heart not to relive the past, but to help someone else avoid the trap, the spiral, the silence. And when you stop seeing your struggle as something to be ashamed of, and start seeing it as a tool to serve, everything changes. You go from victim to vessel, from broken to builder. Most people are waiting to speak up until they feel healed enough, or whole enough, or ready. But there's someone out there right now who doesn't need your finished chapter. They need the one you're still writing. They don't need the highlight reel. They need the honesty. The part where you didn't know how it was going to turn out, but you didn't give up. The part where you had every reason to quit, but you chose to believe anyway. That's what gives people hope. Not that you made it, but that you're still making it. Still pressing forward, still trusting, even when you're trembling. That authenticity is what reaches people. That's what speaks louder than perfection ever could. The enemy wants you to keep quiet about what broke you. He wants you to carry shame like a badge, to think no one else could possibly understand, to believe you're damaged beyond usefulness. But God wants to use the exact thing the enemy tried to silence. That addiction you beat, that betrayal you forgave, that depression you climbed out of, that grief you're learning to live with. That's the stuff that builds bridges. That's how other people find their way out. And you might not feel like you're qualified to help anyone, but what if it's not about being qualified? What if it's just about being available, about saying, I've been through some things, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. Not to relive it, but to redeem it. Not to glorify the pain, but to show that it didn't win. Every time you share your story, a piece of someone else's fear loses its grip. Every time you speak life, even with a trembling voice, someone else finds the courage to keep going. That's legacy. That's what coloring with a broken crayon looks like. Bold, imperfect strokes that change the atmosphere for someone else. You didn't go through all that for nothing. There's purpose in the pain. There's power in the testimony, and you may never fully know how many people you've inspired just by refusing to quit. But one thing is for sure, your story matters, your voice matters. What broke you can build someone else if you let it. So don't hide what made you, use it. Don't be afraid to speak from the scars. They prove you've healed, and they give others the hope that they can too. That's how you color the world. By being real, by being brave, and by turning your broken pieces into building blocks for somebody else's freedom. You're not too late, you're not too far gone, and no matter how broken you may feel, your best days are not behind you. They're waiting for you to believe again. That's the hardest thing, isn't it? Not the fall, not the failure, not even the pain. The hardest part is daring to believe that something beautiful can still come from it, that your life still matters, that the pieces you're holding onto can still be shaped into something worth living for. But hear me, broken crayons still color, and so can you. There's this quiet lie that settles in after disappointment. The idea that maybe you've missed your chance. Maybe the opportunity passed. Maybe the door closed for good. Maybe that mistake was the end of the road, but purpose doesn't work like that. See, what's meant for you isn't fragile. It doesn't vanish because you fell short. It doesn't disappear because of time. Purpose waits, it adapts, it meets you where you are and walks with you forward, not backward. You haven't run out of time. You're right on time for what's next, and I know what it feels like to carry silent battles. To wake up with heaviness and still put your feet on the floor. To smile for others when you're aching inside. That takes strength. That's not weakness. That's not defeat. That's evidence that the fire in you is still burning, even if it feels small. You're still here, and as long as you're still breathing, your story's not finished. We often wait for perfect circumstances to start again. We wait for the stars to align, for the pain to fade, for the fear to vanish. But starting doesn't require perfect conditions. It requires a decision. A simple, quiet decision that says, I'm not done. You don't need a map for the whole journey. You just need the courage to take the next step. Your next chapter might not look like your last. It might not be as smooth, as clear, or as familiar. But that doesn't mean it won't be powerful. Sometimes it's in the shift, in the unknown, that you finally start becoming who you were meant to be. Because brokenness strips away the pretending. It leaves you raw, yes, but it also leaves you real, and that version of you, the honest, humbled, hopeful version, that's the one who's ready for the real assignment. You don't have to chase what was. You're being invited into what can still be. Stop replaying the past like it's the only part of the story that matters. It shaped you, but it doesn't have to define you. Maybe you didn't see the twist coming. Maybe it hurt more than you ever imagined. But what if this is the turning point? What if your greatest days begin the moment you stop mourning who you were and start embracing who you're becoming? You are not disqualified, not by the failure, not by the detour, not by the silence. In fact, the very things you thought would bury you might be the ground your next season grows from. That's the beauty of grace. It doesn't just patch you up, it gives you a fresh start. And you don't have to have it all figured out to walk into that. So today, I'm challenging you. Don't count yourself out. Pick up the pieces. Start with what you have left. It might not feel like much, but in the hands of the one who created you, it's more than enough. Life is still worth living. Dreams are still worth chasing. People are still waiting to hear your voice, to feel your impact, to experience your presence. Even if all you have left is a broken crayon, color anyway. Because your best is not behind you. It's still being drawn.